Hey there, it's Square again, and today we have a new book to talk about. During one of my typical days where I would browse motivational videos on YouTube, I stumbled across Will Smith and some of his inspirational messages. One thing led to another, and I ended up finding an interview where he talks about this book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. He described it as a book that teaches you that you really can be whatever you want to be. Create whatever it is you want to create, as long as you put your mind and heart into it. Needless to say, I was determined to read this book on my quest for self-improvement. Warning, there's gonna be spoilers. Alright, so let's first just summarize the book a little bit. Our book tells a story of a young shepherd named Santiago who decides one day to set upon a journey to find his personal legend. In other words, his dreams and aspirations of finding treasure in the pyramids of Egypt. Along the way, he meets several characters that each teach him a lesson in life. He meets a gypsy fortune teller that describes to him what his dream had meant, a mysterious king that urges him to strongly pursue his personal legend, a thief who teaches him a hard lesson in trust, a crystal merchant who helps him get back on his feet, an Englishman who sparks Santiago's interest in alchemy, a woman of the desert whom he falls in love with. Finally, he meets the alchemist, who teaches him more about the language of the world, as well as the art of listening to his heart, as he moves closer to finding his treasure. Our protagonist grows and learns during his adventure, and by the end of it he is a completely different person from the beginning, one with more self-belief, wisdom, and a greater understanding of how the world works. To top it off, there's even a little bit of supernatural magic towards the end, and who doesn't love a bit of that? I found the beauty of this book was in the many short life lessons and quotes that were littered endlessly, like cheese on a pizza throughout the book, and I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to make a video of some of my favourite ones and see how you or me can both improve from them. It's the simple things in life that are the most extraordinary. Only wise men are able to understand them. A lot of times in life I think people tend to believe that they need to do extraordinary things to achieve extraordinary results, but often it is the small, rather mundane steps you take that build towards that special something. Going back to my Will Smith motivational videos, I remember him telling the story of his dad asking him and his younger brother to build a new wall for their shop. What seemed like an impossible task for two kids from the get-go, they managed to finish it and it only took them 1.5 years. The lesson to learn from this is that instead of looking at the giant wall and being scared, just focus on the brick, lay one brick at a time, and before you know it, you will have your wall. In the book, when our protagonist Santiago meets the mysterious king, he asks him what's the world's greatest lie. The king says, at a certain point in our lives we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. Meet Jim. Jim is 28 years old and lives in Australia. Currently unhappy with his current job, working for a call centre where he reluctantly has to survey people day in, day out. Jim wanted to work straight after high school so that he could earn money and buy a fancy car, despite aspiring to become a fictional story writer when he was younger. Now he finds his daily job extremely boring, uninspiring and stagnant. Jim feels trapped because he has to keep paying installments for his car. As the quote says, Jim feels like he has somewhat lost control of what's happened to him and his fate. Of course that's a lie. Jim is very much in the driver's seat for his life. He could begin selling his car, perhaps get a less expensive one, start reading more novels to fill his mind with ideas and characters for his stories. He could start going to uni part-time and do a course that involves writing. This could perhaps open a path to his writing career. 28 is still heaps young. I mean, Morgan Freeman says your 40s are your best years, so there's plenty of time for Jim over here. The message here is to feel that you are never trapped within your circumstances, and if you are willing to change, everything around you will change too. And when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. This quote is repeated numerous times during the journey, and rightfully so. As you read the story, you feel Santiago's attachment to his personal legend grow stronger and stronger by the day. As he continues to put effort into pursuing it, the universe really did continue to conspiring to help him achieve it, through the people he meets and through the complications he faces. When you set yourself upon a task and are determined to accomplish it, you tend to see opportunities pop up more often than usual. For instance, if you are set to lose some weight, you may see that getting a parking spot more further away is actually a blessing, as you are now able to add more steps to your day. Elevator taking too long? No worries, I'll gladly take the stairs. The secret to happiness is to see all the marvels of the world and never forget the drops of oil on the spoon. This quote is from a story that is told to Santiago by the mysterious king. Basically, he tells a story of a boy who goes to meet the wisest man in the world in order to find the secret to happiness. The wise man tells him he doesn't have enough time to explain, but instead tells the boy to wander around the marvelous city while holding a spoon filled with 2 drops of oil that he is not allowed to drop. Upon doing so, the wise man then asks the boy what wonders did he see as he was walking around. The boy embarrassingly says he didn't see anything because he was too worried about not spilling the oil. The wise man then tells him to once again explore the city, and this time taking in the wonders that the city had to offer, with the spoon still in hand. Finally, when he spoke to the wise man again, he was able to tell him about all the beauties of the city. The wise man then asked him about the oil. The boy looks down and realizes the oil had been spilled. And so again, the secret to happiness is to see all the marvels of the world and never forget the drops of oil in the spoon. I really love this short story. It is simple yet very fundamental. Throughout life, there is always going to be times that take our breath away and leave us in awe of the moment. But when it comes down to it, we should always keep the importance of friends and family in our hearts, as they are like the drops of oil in the spoon, so don't spill those drops. He realized that he had to choose between thinking of himself as the poor victim of a thief and as an adventurer in the quest of his treasure. Early in our story, Santiago sells his flock of sheep in order to begin his journey to the pyramids of Egypt. As he embarks on Africa, he encounters a thief in Tangier, who robs him of nearly everything he owns. The poor guy just stepped foot into the new world and already he has to start on the back foot. However, instead of crying and playing the victim, he tells himself that this is all part of the journey and a learning experience in trust. So there's only one option, and that is to keep pursuing his personal legend. It is normal in life to come across many trials and tribulations that can really put us down and rattle us. But how we respond to these situations is really entirely up to us. I mean, we have complete control over our emotions, at least most of the time. We can take things in usually one of two ways. We can either be sad, angry, and then snowball downhill, which in most cases doesn't really do us any good, and is more of a knee-jerk reaction. Or we can take it as a learning experience and see how we can better ourselves from this. For instance, let's say you get turned down from a job interview that you were really excited for, and in fact you thought you went rather solid during the interview, and your portfolio isn't too shabby either. But when you get that phone call with the bad news, you begin to hate the world for a moment. And that's normal. Who wouldn't be upset right now? I know I would. In fact, this has happened to me not long ago. But here's a moment to do what Santiago did. Instead of being upset, take the opportunity to ask the people for feedback and how you can improve, what you could have done differently, and if there is perhaps another position opening up, and tell them you're keen to give another shot. Make the best of the situation. Because I don't live in either my past or my future, I'm interested only in the present. If you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man. This quote came from the camel driver while him and Santiago were passing the desert amongst the tribal wars. Despite the possibility of dying at any moment, the camel driver was happy. He was happy because he was alive in the moment, possessing the privilege to be human and enjoy the life of the desert and the stars in the sky, and that's all that really mattered. I particularly like this one because it reminds us how lucky we are to be alive. We all have things we regret from the past, the mistakes we made, and then we have the stresses of the future, like that speeding fine that's going to hurt our budget, myself here, or your girlfriend's birthday present when you know she's hard to impress. But when you think about it, the past and the future are rather abstract, because you only really exist in the moment. And there's a lot to enjoy in the moment because it's limited and it won't be around forever. So next time, take a step back and breathe the fresh air, read that book, kick that ball, and eat that food without thinking too much about everything else. There's only one way to learn, the Alchemist answered. It's through action. Everything you need to know, you have learnt through your journey. This quote was from the Alchemist to our friend Santiago, as they were making the final steps to his personal legend. This one was blunt and straight to the point. I picked this because sometimes you really just have to get into the thick of things to learn, and there's really no other way. You could theorize, talk to professionals, and ask your friends, but until you actually have a crack at it, you'll never truly know. This reminds me of a quote by Tony Robbins. If you want to take the fucking island, then burn the fucking boats and you will take the island. Because people, when they're either going to die or succeed, they tend to succeed. But most of us tend to give ourselves a way out, and that's why we don't have what we want. In other words, just jump into the mix and get to work. Don't look back. People are afraid to pursue their most important dreams because they feel that they don't deserve them or that they'll be unable to achieve them. Tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than suffering itself. These two quotes kind of hit a similar note to previous ones. It's simple, if you don't chase your dreams and aspirations, it's always going to linger in your mind. The what if this and what if that? Imagine if I actually did this, where would I be now? Imagine I didn't take the safe option. What's the worst that could happen? Say you fail, you learn from your failures. You fail again, you learn again. Rinse, repeat. Failure is just a step forward towards success. Just fail forward. Every search begins with beginner's luck, and every search ends with the victor being severely tested. It is said that the darkest hour of the night came just before the dawn. Our friend Santiago faces tough challenges as he inches closer to his personal legend. In fact, his life gets put on the line several times. One time he is faced with the challenge of either turning into wind or kicking the bucket, and just before he gets his last clue for his treasure, he gets beaten and robbed one more time. When we are on our own journey to our own personal legend, we're going to face some real grim moments too. Moments that make you want to run to the nearest exit, throw in the towel, or put up the white flag. But you know, if you persevere, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So like Santiago, don't give up and keep moving forward. Thanks again for listening. If you feel like a little bit of creative inspiration, check the book out yourself. Building Blocks are Square, signing out.